episode number 90 of Raise the Banner podcast. We are officially at number 90, officially 10 episodes away from the big 100. We got a jam-packed schedule today. It is a little bit early of an episode, 4:30, coming here live because we have a 6 o'clock game for the Boston Red Sox tonight.
6:08.
As they look, all right, you got to be technical over here. As they look to finish off the New York Yankees. Last night, the Boston Red Sox went into New York. Garrett Crochet shoved, as you see Benny Ballgame, dropper of foul balls, wearing the War Pig shirt. Garrett Crochet showed the hell up. Basically one bad pitch. I don't know where Ben is going right now.
I don't know what happened.
One lousy pitch to Volpe, but other than that, he was dominant the entire game. He shoved the entire way. Yoshida comes in, pitch hits, 2-run single. Bregman puts an insurance run in the top of the ninth. What were your thoughts, Ben? Game one, and what are your feelings here heading into game two?
So game one was kind of everything we had hoped for. Typical postseason baseball, low scoring, pitching dominant. You saw what you got out of Crochet all year. Obviously his first ever postseason game. Workload was as high as it's ever been. So a little bit of uncertainty. Obviously, you know what you're going to get from Crochet if he brings his A game, but you just weren't sure because he had never done it before. And of course, first postseason game on the road, Yankee Stadium, notorious for being more hitter friendly than pitcher friendly. And he was everything you could have hoped for and more. From the get go, he never looked rattled. He was locked in. The Volpe home run, credit to him. Wasn't the greatest pitch, but obviously, Volpe stayed on it, hit it out to right. Supposedly, the only ballpark it was not a home run in would have been Fenway Park. I'm not sure I believe that because projected distance was 387, and the right field in Fenway is 380. So I'm not sure how that equates to it not being a home run in Fenway, but I digress. And that never seemed to rattle him. He moved on. He shut him down the rest of the way. Again, could not have asked for a better start. If you had said, before the game that you were going to get 7 2/3 innings, I'd have to look at the final stat line. It was just the 1 earned run, 11 Ks, no walks.
Yeah.
If you had said that was going to be 7 2/3, I would, been like, okay, sweet, awesome. Probably meant the Red Sox won the game. Obviously they did. They had to score late to do it, but better late than never. So, super happy to see the Red Sox get that first one out of the way. Statistically speaking, if you take game one of these 3-game wildcard series, it bodes very, very well. I think of the 12 series, so prior to this year, and I know Cleveland forced game 3 about 20 minutes ago, but prior to this year, I think 4 times the game 1 loser won game 2 to force a game 3, but no game 1 loser has been able to complete the comeback yet. Obviously a small sample size. We're talking 12 series over the last 3 years. But stats are what they are, and we're doing the show today. We're not doing the show 10 years from now with a larger sample size. So, the stats favor the game 1 winner pretty heavily. And I felt, and I know I'd asked this of you, off the record, if game 1, outside of it being, statistically not in your favor to win the series, outside of that, was game 1 a must win? I kind of felt like it was a little bit of a must win because you're not really sure what you're going to get from Brian Bayo. Yeah, he had a good year. He was really good, June, July, and August, but he had a rough September. I think he had a 5.40 ERA. His last start against the Yankees was okay. I think it was 5 innings, 2 earned. I don't know if he factored into the decision. I know the Red Sox did not win that game. not sure how he factored into the decision. So segueing into tonight, that's kind of where I'm at. Obviously we have the 1 game cushion, so you certainly want to finish it off tonight and not let it get to a game 3 because, as we know, the Red Sox do not have very good depth in the rotation. Giolito is probably, I don't know if it's confirmed, but in all likelihood is done for the year. He won't pitch again for us um, as he heads into free agency. So, it's a little scary to think that, if you force a game 3, obviously you have to win game 3, but what that means for the next series. So winning it tonight is huge. If they can get, 5 or 6 innings out of Bayo and have it be, a game that they're in offensively, that's all you can really ask for at this point. If they can get to the Yankee bullpen, we saw what happened when they did that last night. I don't know where they rank overall statistically. It's not dead last, but they're pretty close. I think they were 23rd in bullpen ERA. I think their best bullpen stat was like 19th or something on K rate. So if you can get to the bullpen, the odds certainly favor the Red Sox. So I'd like to say that I'm feeling cautiously optimistic. The Yankees are probably going to feel some pressure to win at home and not lose to your arch rival. I mean, getting swept at home in a wild card series is bad enough, but it stings a little bit more when it's your arch rival. So, cautiously optimistic, feeling good. And hopefully they can get the job done tonight.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about, is it a must win or was it a must win? I didn't really look going into a game 1 feel like it was. I didn't want to call it a must win because, like I said, it was a 12-game sample size. Like, I don't buy into it enough where that it's when it's that much of a small sample size.
12 series, not games. 12 series.
Yeah, excuse me, 12 series. Nevertheless, you lose game 1 on the road, it would have been a pretty daunting task, to come back, especially losing Giolito. But they're not dealing with that. They took game 1. You have Bayo on the mound. My biggest issue right now going into game 2, I understand you won game 1. You're feeling good. You want to stick with what worked. But the question to that is, did it work? The lineup that you put out there to start game 1 didn't work.
Right.
You only won game 1 because you pinch hit Masataka Yoshida. Right.
Correct.
So you're going to say, okay, we're sticking with the same lineup because, and if your argument is because we won game 1, well, again, that does not make sense because you only won because of the guy you pinch hit for. So I just don't really get it. I know Cora really likes to play matchups, and we talked about, the left versus righties, and Yoshida is a lefty, and Rodon is a lefty. But we look at this. Jarren Duran looked lost last night at the plate. He is, I believe, it's 2 for 16 career versus Rodon. Roman Gonzalez, who I get him out there versus lefties. He is 1 for 13 against Rodon. Ref Snyder, I'm fine with keeping out there, but a guy like Yoshida, like, the dude is just seeing the ball at a different rate right now. He's clearly seeing the ball differently than everybody else. I just don't get how you can keep that on the bench and not have that up there for 4 to 5 at bats, like in the game. I think that is, borderline malpractice, and I do want to give all the props to Cora because I think he managed yesterday's game very well, like in game. The decision to bring Crochet back out there for the eighth inning was ballsy, and it worked. The decision to pitch hit Massa when he did, ballsy, and it worked. Well, not so much ballsy, but it worked in the in the time that it did. So he managed the game well, and Boone did the opposite. Like he took out Fried when he really probably shouldn't have. But with this lineup decision, I just don't really agree with it. I understand it's a lefty. I do, but I just don't see how you can look at what Yoshida has been doing for the last 3-4 weeks of the season, and then what he did last night, and say, I'm going to keep that on the bench. And I know he'll get in. He'll get into the lineup like later in the game.
You
But
hope.
like, I mean, it's almost like I feel like a certain that he'll find his way into the game. Like he'll
Yeah.
pitch hit for Romy or Ref Snyder or Sogard or what's his face in right field?
Eaton.
Nick Eaton. Yeah, Nick Eaton. Like
Nate Eaton.
Nate Eaton. So like I get it, but like they should be having, in my opinion, it should be Ref Snyder in right field and Eaton on the bench. Or if they really wanted to be ballsy, you could throw Durant on the bench. I wouldn't. The only reason I wouldn't do that is because he's just a good player. So like, it's tough to really sit that type of player in a playoff game. But I just think it's a big mistake right now to be having Yoshida on the bench.
Yeah, I mean, and we'll see if that rears its ugly head. You brought up Rashida not hitting. I mean, so your lineup tonight, you've got Ref Snyder at DH, Story, Bregman, Romy at first, Narvaez, Eaton in right, Duran in left, Sadon in center, and Sogard hitting ninth, playing second base. So, I get it. And perhaps the thought process is the best bats in the Yankee bullpen, the best arms in the Yankee bullpen are all right-handers. Bednar, Weaver, Devin Williams. So you figure, obviously all three of those guys pitched last night. So you've already seen all their high leverage guys from the get-go. So, maybe Cora is, trying to play the odds and say, if I need a big hit late against a bullpen that has not been very good this year, and their top arms out of the bullpen are all right-handed, maybe he's trying to play that angle, as opposed to just trying to get Yoshida into the lineup so that he's there all game. Not here.
The good part of it is he can pick when Yoshida takes that at bat like that. That's the upside of it. But I'd rather him get 4 at bats in wherever that may be, in whatever situations they'll be, than like picking 1 or 2 at bats later in the game. It's just I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense. He is your I don't even want to say arguably, like right now he is your best hitter. Like there's no one in this lineup that is hitting the ball better for them. You know what I mean? Like you could argue Story, Bregman. Yeah, I get it, but like if there's anybody in this lineup right now that I want to get a hit, like do you have anybody that you're really that much more confident in? If you need a base hit in tonight's game, than Yoshida, it's tough to argue you would have more confidence than anybody but him.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Story. I know he had a tough game 1. He couldn't hit Fried's off-speed stuff to save his life, but yeah, I mean, excuse me. I mean, Yoshida had a much better end of the season than he did in the beginning. It clearly is Cora just wants to play the matchups, or somebody above Cora's head saying you need to play the matchups tonight. The nice thing with the Red Sox is that in general the team tends to hit Carlos Rodon pretty well. I know Romy and Ref Snyder don't have great historical numbers. Duran and Ref Snyder don't have.
No, Duran and Romy.
Romy don't historically have great numbers. But it's clearly a matchup thing. Obviously, I know this, lefty's not really a matchup, but maybe I would imagine the defense obviously plays into that. If Duran's not playing and you have Ref Snyder, Eaton, and Rafaela in the outfield, it's not as good. I would say if you put Ref Snyder in right, probably fine if you're going to not play Nate Eaton, and then you can put Yoshida at DH. Um, you know, clearly just wants to play the matchups. Hopefully it works out tonight, and Brian Bayo pitches really, really well. I know. So career versus the Yankees. Shout out Tyler Milliken for putting these stats out about an hour ago. So career versus the Yankees in 11 starts, he has a 2.35 ERA, 7.3 Ks per nine, 3 walks per nine, a 2.13 batting average against with just under a 52% ground ball rate. At Yankee Stadium tends to be where he shines in 5 starts, 1.44 ERA, 2.80 FIP. The strikeout numbers are down, only 5 Ks per nine, 2 walks per nine. The batting average against is 196, and the ground ball rate is 50. So, he has performed well against the Yankees and has historically been better against the Yankees on the road than he has at Fenway. So hopefully you can get, 6 good innings and then hand it over to your bullpen. The nice thing, and I don't know if you saw the video on Nesson. I think I saw it this morning. I think it came out last night because they had asked Cora post game about something that had happened between him and Crochet, I guess, during the pregame where there was something going on in the bullpen, and Alex Cora said something about like calling to the bullpen to have guys come down to the dugout. And Garrett Crochet was like, "Oh, well, you're only going to need to make one phone call tonight because I plan on handing the ball to Chapman." So, you love to see that. But the nice part is that, while it was, heart racingly stressful in the 9th inning last night, Chapman's probably the only guy who's not.
I'm getting text from you. Take Chapman out. Base hit number 3 later. Take Chapman out.
Yeah. And so I was talking to a buddy of mine, Justin, about this earlier today about like how if it could have been done differently, what would have made some sense. And at least to me, just based on how the lineup was rolling out, you had it was 3 straight righties before you got to the lefties, and so you could have had Whitlock go out for the last out of the 8th against Caballero, and then you would have had Goldschmidt and Judge as the first 2 guys in the 9th inning, who were the first 2 guys to get on against Chapman, and then because of the changeover of the inning, the 3-batter minimum rule doesn't apply. So if you really wanted Chapman to face Judge because of whatever reason, you could have pulled Whitlock after the Goldschmidt at bat.
So they would have brought in Brennan Rice to face if Whitlock came in, probably.
Why? He doesn't play third base, does he?
I maybe not, but they would have probably brought him in that scenario where they're down one run. They were talking about it. I forget where I saw it. They were talking about like why Cora was a little bit more willing to bring Crochet out there in the 8th, and it was in part because they knew how it was set up. Like they wouldn't be able to pitch hit because they knew they had the bottom of the order coming up through Crochet, right? There was like 6, 7, 8 or something like that to Crochet.
Yeah, it was 6, 7, 8 because Caballero hits 9th, and then you turn the lineup over to Goldschmidt.
Yeah, they knew they knew that if they brought in Whitlock for at any point in that inning, that they would have then pitch hit Rice. And they had Jazz Chisholm, who was a lefty already there too. They had what's his face, the center fielder. I'm having a mind blank. What is the dude with the mustache?
Grisham was already in the lineup.
No, that's what I'm saying though. They had Jazz and Grisham, who were both lefties facing Crochet, right?
Correct. Yeah, but what I'm saying though is that, like, obviously it worked out. So we're kind of splitting hairs on what we would have done. But you figure Ben Rice doesn't play third. I don't know who's on the bench for the Yankees, so I don't know as if they would have put Ben Rice in a pinch hit situation in that spot. I mean, they theoretically could have. I just don't know who's on the bench that could have gone in and played third because Jazz was already in the game at that point. Um, so unless you shift him over and then you've got somebody else who can play second to move Jazz over, but it's funny too because there was a my buddy Justin was telling me too that he was listening to something about how I guess Chapman looks dialed in more when he's apparently like stressed, and so some guy was saying that I guess when he's like super like sweaty, like looks like Shaq at the foul line, that like that's the Chapman you want to see on the mound because that means that he's like his adrenaline's pumping and he's locked in mentally and his body just apparently starts to sweat profusely. And that didn't happen until they were bases loaded, nobody out. I don't know how much you paid attention to this part of it, but
Yeah.
early on, right, like the last start of the eighth and then the early part of the ninth inning when they loaded the bases, his fastball velocity wasn't where it normally was. He was like 97, 98. And then once things started to ramp up and he locked it down, he was 100, 101, 102. And so, I could have envisioned a scenario where Whitlock came in, but, to kind of bring this back, the nice thing is that Chapman's probably the only guy who's not available tonight. I'd have to look at the box
So
score. I don't. What?
they would have had, I think, Ryan McMahon to be able to come in for Rice after Caballero to play third.
Okay. So, um, again, I'm just bringing up the box score. I just want to bring up the box score from last night. I would imagine that Chapman's not available. Let me just see.
I think they'll try to. I think they'll preferably try to avoid him, but
Yeah,
in a
he went an inning and a third and threw 24 pitches, which is one thing that you have to remember. I have to remember is that both Goldschmidt and Judge singled on like the first or second pitch of their at bat, and so well, yeah, he threw 24 pitches. The vast majority of them were because the first three guys got on with singles, like after he'd only thrown like 8 pitches. So again, yeah, probably not available, having gone an inning and a third with 24 pitches. But again, the nice thing is that literally everybody else is available. Presumably
yeah.
you'll have
Well,
you would want Whitlock for the end. You've got Slayton, you've got Wilson, you've got I mean, they have Weiser in the bullpen. I really hope that they just like chain him to a pole somewhere and don't let him see the light of day. But he's obviously out there. The entire bullpen is
it,
rested and ready to go.
I
You've
don't
got
think
Tolley out.
there's
You've
no
got
chance
Tolley out
Chapman
there.
goes. Like, there's no chance Chapman goes another a scenario where he goes 4 outs again. But like, I wouldn't rule out if they need him in the ninth. Like, you have a chance to put the Yankees away in a 3-game series. If this was a 7-game series where you're up 1-0, like I could.
Right. He's not available tonight.
What do you mean?
That's what
You're
I'm
saying
saying.
like this?
In a
Oh,
seven game,
no.
this is
Oh, yeah,
game
yeah.
2
In
of
a
a seven.
7-game
Yeah,
series,
he would not
I
be
would
available
say
tonight.
there's more. Like, I would say there's a high chance that like they just stay away from him altogether. In a game like tonight, where like you lose, then you go to a sudden death game. Like, if they feel like they need to go to him, they're gonna go to him as long as he obviously feels like he can go. I don't think they're gonna go and say like he pitched last night. We should really stay away from him because we don't want to overuse him. Like this is the playoffs. We gotta put dig deep and do what it takes to win. Because obviously, also if you win tonight, uh, you then will have at least another day's rest, maybe 2 days rest before the next series. I don't know exactly when the next series would start.
It starts Saturday, no matter what.
Yeah, so there you go. You would have Thursday and Friday off if you to go and rest no matter what.
Yeah.
And so like they would have a big clean slate again. So Chapman is definitely not off limits tonight. But again, it's a scenario where if they're up 5-2 heading into the ninth,
right, he
okay,
should probably. Yeah, he should
let's
probably
maybe
get
try to
stretch.
run Whitlock out there. Whitlock
Yeah,
out there.
yeah. I mean, even still, like I would say in a one-run game, and you haven't used Whitlock yet, I would still probably go to Whitlock, and just make sure that Chapman's ready to go in case you run into a scenario where you need
Maybe.
whether the
It
the matchup
also
works.
depends on maybe the matchups and stuff. Like if you're going up there and you're facing like a core of righties where you're facing Goldschmidt and Judge and stuff like that, like you may be a little bit more willing to go with the Whitlock too, versus if you're facing like a Ben Rice and a Bellinger. I'd have to see exactly how their lineup is for tonight. Obviously, by the end of the game, it will probably be screwed up anyways. But um,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean Grisham's a lefty, Judge righty, Bellinger lefty, righty, lefty. Yeah, I mean so it's a little mixed up anyways. But if they absolutely have to go Chapman, he's available. They'll prefer to stay away from him if they can, but uh, they're not going to sit there and say like, yeah, he's off limits. This is obviously let's put the team away and let's advance, but this is also the New York Yankees. Like, let's
yeah,
shove it down their throat.
yeah. So I don't know if you saw. Did you see the Yankee lineup for tonight?
Yeah, it's Grisham, Judge. So that's what I was pulling up on ESPN.
Yeah. So historically speaking, if you want to talk about so the biggest sample size, Aaron Judge has 21 career at bats against Brian Bayo. He has an 0.95 average. Bellinger 4 for 10. The middle of the lineup's all right. Like I said, Bellinger's 4 for 10, Rice 3 of 11, Stanton 2 for 10. But of those 8 times he didn't get a hit, he struck out 7 of them. Typical Giancarlo Stanton. Chisholm's pretty decent. The bottom of the lineup, Wells and McMahon, not super great, but Volpe's had some good success against him, so kind of hit or miss. The Ref Snyder in the leadoff spot for the Sox tonight makes sense. He's got a 353 career average on Carlos Rodon. So I was trying to find if I could find a quick link to Aaron Judge career versus Garrett Whitlock. I didn't find a quick one there. So, but
I could probably pull it up. Give me a minute. But so there was I was just reading. Apparently, Story was very sick last night.
yes, as was Bregman. Apparently, guys were sick, throwing up, which makes makes the win, I guess, all that more impressive. Would explain certain things. I mean, Trevor Story looked lost last night. He couldn't hit Max Fried's curveball. Granted, Max Fried he was very on last night. And just to kind of bring it back, you had talked about Max Fried getting pulled, and I thought about this. I talked to some people about it, some friends, and I go back and forth on. I mean, obviously, in hindsight, it was the wrong decision, but I can at least understand the thought process of why Aaron Boone might have gone to the bullpen. I don't agree with the decision. I think I still would have ridden Max Fried, but he was at 101, 102 pitches, so he was near his limit
98.
anyway. You sure about that?
Yeah, it was 98 pitches.
Okay. So anyway, so right around 100 pitches, and he had started to show signs of like kinks in the armor, so to speak. Early on in the game, he didn't throw hardly any four-seam fastballs. He was cutter, changeup, curve. I don't know if he throws a sweeper, if it's considered a curve. At this point, I still don't even know what a sweeper is, but whatever. I digress. But you figure. Oh, and for the record, Max Fried threw 102 pitches, so you can suck that.
Someone said 98. Also, Judge's 3 for 9 with a home run and 4 Ks versus Whitlock.
Okay. So Fried, again, he had looked pretty good for most of the game, but at that point, I feel Boone probably looked at it and said he looked a little bit tired, because I don't know how much you paid attention to Max Fried pitching, but his off-speed stuff to righties was devastating. Guys couldn't lay off the changeup on the outer part of the plate. Start on the corner, work its way off. and he started to lose that control. He started, you could tell, front side starts to open up a little bit. So his off speed, obviously, that means your off speed stuff's going to start leaking, away from a righty into a lefty, which is traditionally a sign of being tired. When you start to get lazy with your front half. So, I can understand why. Looking at him and being like, okay, like he doesn't look right. Um, but at the same time, right, like the other side of this coin is, it's not like Aaron Boone has the bullpen that most other teams have, right? He's not. It's not like he was taking the ball from Max Fried and handing it to an elite bullpen arm. If he had that option, say Luke Weaver was the best holds guy in the league, high strikeout rate, didn't give up a ton of hits type of guy, and the Red Sox just happened to get to him. Well, okay, well then you just tip your cap to the Red Sox. But he handed the ball to a bullpen that I think, like, I don't know what the overall statistic was, but they were like 23rd in bullpen ERA, and so it's not like you're handing it to guys who are dominant shutdown arms. So I don't necessarily agree with that. I don't know if they had to pull him, because I don't know if they went out for a mound visit before that, which obviously would have necessitated them pulling him if they go out a second time. But, I think I would have been more apt to go talk to him, see how he feels, let him know what we're seeing from the dugout, and then just kind of go batter by batter. Because at that point, they're up by one, and you've got the bottom of the order coming up. And so, well, Yoshida pinch hit, and I think he became the leadoff hitter. So, um, but the top of the lineup hadn't really done much of anything. I probably would have stayed with Max Fried, and then you just take it hitter by hitter and go from there. But, um, you know, we made the right decisions, pushed all the right buttons. Aaron Boone did not. I will say I was surprised to see Garrett Crochet go off for the eighth inning. I wasn't feeling super comfortable about that. I think he only threw 6 or 7 pitches in the seventh, which enabled him to go back out there for the eighth. So, good on them. And, hopefully they can push the right buttons again tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there's. I'm looking forward to tonight. I don't know what to expect really. Part of me thinks it could be another duel. Part of me thinks that it could be like a back and forth game where both bullpens are kind of having to be used pretty early, where both Bayo and Rodon are out by the fifth inning type of thing. I'm not really sure where I feel and where things line up, but I do see it kind of being like one end of the spectrum or the other type of thing. Um, my gut feeling is that we're going to see like a 6-5 game,
Yeah.
where you know what I mean, like something like that, where Bayo goes maybe 5 innings, 3 runs type of thing. Rodon goes 5 innings, 4 runs. Both bullpens let up a little bit. Maybe Sox ideally prevail in the end. Uh,
Yeah. And
what
on,
I'm
and
looking,
on that real quick, just to throw this into the fray, in 2025 only, Brian Bale versus the Yankees, 19 innings pitched, 189 ERA, 17 Ks. Carlos Rodon versus the Red Sox this year, 15 and 2/3, 574 ERA, 12 Ks.
yeah, I will say I remember going back into the regular season, uh, and there was, I think it was a Sunday night game, might have been. I know it was on like ESPN or it was a night game, so I assume it was Sunday night baseball. But main stage, big weekend series. Bayo came out and just shoved it down the Yankees' throat. And I remember saying it might have been to you somewhere, maybe on here, that like I looked at that and was like, that showed me something. Like that was like a performance that showed me something that he can come out and he can perform when the lights are strong, when the lights are bright. Uh, and so I have a little bit more confidence in him than I did just a couple months ago, despite the struggles that he's had in September. Uh, it's tough for when you play well in September. I think that carries over into the playoffs, right? Like with a guy like Yoshida, you're seeing the ball well, like that's going to carry over. But on the other hand, when I think you're struggling in September, the playoffs give you like just a blank slate type of opportunity. Mentally, physically, to kind of just say like, this is a whole different world. Let's go. Now I don't know if that actually works, and statistically, like if that works, but like I feel like it might. Uh,
Yeah.
but I think that he's up for the task. Rodon is a guy that, like you said, the Sox have hit pretty well this year. So, I mean, I like their chances. I really do. I said this, for the last few weeks. Why wouldn't the Red Sox want to play the Yankees? Right? Why would the Yankees want to play the Red Sox? Like, if we're being realistic, the Yankees got their ass kicked by the Red Sox this year. I know
Yep.
the Yankees took the last series, but as a whole, like, the Red Sox beat up on the Yankees this year. And so going into this series, you sat there, especially before the Giolito news, where you sat there and said, like, the Red Sox have a better team, right? They have a better bullpen. They had, in my opinion, like the better top three starters before Giolito was out there. And I mean, I have confidence in early at this point too. And then the lineup without Roman Anthony, it's tough, but it's not like this Yankees lineup. It's hit or miss, right? They even smash the ball and hit home runs, or they can't do shit.
Yeah,
Uh,
they live and die by the home run. Um, Real quick, you brought up Brian Bayo. So numbers wise, he had an okay start in September, but his June and his August start were both 7 innings, no runs. Um, I think he had 13 Ks over the 14 innings. So I mean he was exceptional in two of the three starts and okay in the other one. Um, but yeah, the Yankees live and die by the home run. I mean, you saw it last night. The Yankees got one run on a solo home run from Volpe, and otherwise they couldn't manufacture anything.
yeah. Oh, exactly, exactly. And if you look at, it kind of amazes me. You look at these guys coming up to the plate, and they show their numbers, and it's like Grisham 30 plus home runs, Chisholm 30 home runs, Judge 30 home runs, Bellinger 30. Like everybody's got 30 plus home runs, and it helps that they play in a little league stadium of New York. But it's also like it's clearly this offense where they live and die by the home run. Uh, they don't hit for high averages. They all hit like in the 230s, 240s. And so, if they get a couple ding dongs and they a couple solo shots, they might win. And if they get a couple people on, then they end up putting up a few runs, and that's where they can win ball games, and that's how they win ball games. But if you can limit the long ball, then it puts you in a really good spot to really kind of shut out this team.
Yeah.
So
So park factor, just so you know, for 2025, the Yankees are more or less league average over a 3 year span. If we go just on 2025, Yankee Stadium ranked 16th.
will you
Um,
shut up and let me make my point?
so no, I'm just saying like because that's why like I'm just rolling that in is I think that because if you're not going to hit home runs in Fenway, I'm sorry, if you're not going to hit home runs at Yankee Stadium, the park factor is more or less null and void, right? Like you look at a park like Boston, like Colorado, for example. Granted, it's well, actually, Colorado's a bad example, but like if you look at Fenway, like Fenway's ballpark factor is elevated by the fact that they have. It's like you don't have to hit home runs at Fenway to have success as an offense. Whereas in Yankee Stadium, if you're not hitting home runs, there's no other advantage to hitting the ball somewhere else at Yankee Stadium like there is at a place like Fenway.
Correct. Yankees is all about home runs. Is a Fenway's deemed a little bit hitter friendly, but it's more because of the open space, not like that it's like easy to hit home runs.
Right.
It's because you hit a line drive off the monster, you get doubles. It's because center and right field is a little bit more open and there's more space for doubles and triples and stuff like that.
Right.
That's what that's obviously why it's a little bit more hitter friendly. But anyways, to stay on topic with this matchup tonight, uh, they need to, especially with a guy like Rodon, who I think gets flustered pretty quickly. Um, they need to be aggressive at the plate, but they don't need to. And they kind of, I felt like they kind of did this a little bit at Freed last night. The first couple of innings, they come up, they feel like they were just hacking away. First pitch, Refsnyder ground out. I think that the first inning was like 8 pitches, 9 pitches. Make Rodon beat you, but at the same time, you need to be aggressive, if that makes sense. I know that kind of counterpoints each other.
No, but
uh,
I think that you can be like the way that I would attribute what you're trying to say is you have to so Rodon doesn't he has I don't want to say it's an overpowering fastball. He does throw hard. I think he's like basically every other starter. He's 96, 97, somewhere in that range. I'd have to look up the actual numbers. But Rodon's he's got a decent slider. So it's one of those things where you have to lock in and hone in on fastballs up in the zone and drive those pitches, right? Like I would have no problem if Refsnyder came out and swung out of his shoes first pitch, if Rodon grooves him a fastball and it's right where Refsnyder likes to crush the ball, because it's okay, you made the decision to swing, you swung at the right pitch. Now it's just a matter, okay, well, did you execute it or not? So I think to your point, if they can approach tonight and just say, hey, we got to hammer fastball mistakes from Rodon, otherwise we need to make him work the count. I think the approach becomes being more selective and honing in on the fastball in a zone versus just trying to power the ball out and just pound him into submission.
Yeah, and I guess that it's kind of, this is more what I'm saying is like a generalized approach than Rodon, because it's kind of how you should approach baseball and at bats more in general, where it's
right,
make the pitcher work the count, but be aggressive and be smart. It's there were a few times last night, early, especially early in the game, where I felt like they were overly aggressive. And then there were other times where it's all right, it's a 2-1 count or it's a 2-0 count, and they let a 96-mile-an-hour fastball just come right across the belly button, sitting right there for you, that you can go after. It's a fine line, obviously, and it's tough to it's really tough to balance as a hitter, especially in the MLB, but they need to be that fine line level of aggressive but smart against a guy like Rodon, because despite his track record versus Sox this year, he's a good pitcher. Obviously, he's done this for a long time. He's no slouch of a pitcher, so he's going to come in with a good game plan. This team as a whole for the Sox, they don't exactly have scary names right now.
No.
With Roman Anthony out, they need to put together an offense. They don't have a lineup that's overly scary. They don't have an overly powerful lineup. I mean, who's their most home runs, I think, was what, Story with 27, 28?
I don't think he had that many.
Something like that. And
it was either it was either Story or Abreu.
Well, then it was definitely Story.
I'm sorry, Story or Abreu. Let's see. So home runs on the season. So Story had 25. Abreu had 22.
Yeah. So, you just comparatively, you look like a team like that versus the Yankees. The Yankees had probably 4 or 5, 6 guys that hit 30+ home runs. They're just completely different ball clubs in terms of how they score runs, and in how they approach the game, and so it's like, all right, well, you got to be smart at the plate and you got to manufacture runs. And that's why I'm a little frustrated by why Yoshida's not out there, because it's like, all right, well, like this is a guy that like is doing what you try to do as a ball club to a T right now.
Yeah.
Smart at bats, hitting the ball well, putting the ball in play. Um, he's doing everything you're kind of looking for. But what's your final prediction here? Are they
Um,
taking it home tonight? Score prediction?
Yeah, so I'm gonna take Sox 6-4. I think you're gonna get Bayo, like you're gonna get a better version of Bayo than what you got in September. He tends to pitch really, really well at Yankee Stadium. So I'm gonna go Bayo, 6 innings, 2 earned. Um, you know, I'll give him 4 or 5 Ks. He'll battle, turn it over to the bullpen. And I think the Red Sox, the bullpen shuts it down without Chapman tonight. They get the extra day's rest. And then we head off north of the border to Toronto, where in all likelihood Connolly Early will make his postseason debut in Game 1 in the Rogers Center.
All right. Hold on one sec. I'm gonna do. I'll go 5-3.
Okay,
5-3. I think that
it's a good
Bayo comes out.
it's a good put out number.
Yeah, I think Bayo comes out as well, and I think he's going to pitch a solid game. Maybe 5 innings. He'll battle. I think the Yankees are going to work him. 5 innings where he, again, like I said, he's gonna battle, and the bullpen is going to have to fight and fight and fight against a team that puts up a good battle as well. And then the Sox are going to put up the 5 runs. I think they're going to hit Rodon pretty well. I think Rodon will end up going, 5 or 6 innings, but they'll tack on. I think they'll chip away. It's not going to be like they're going to throw up 5 runs in an inning or 4 runs in an inning. I think it's going to be, they put up one run in the second, or 2 runs in the third, and then 1 run here. It'll be a chip away thing. And by the end of the game, by the end of the 5th or 6th inning, he's out of there. And then they put up 1 or 2 more in the bullpen, and whether it's Whitlock or Chapman, they're able to put the game away. I'm very interested to see who they put in before Chapman or Whitlock. I know you talked about like Weisert or like that, just tying them to a chain and not letting them in, but I don't know who they're going to be, who their 7th inning guy will be. It'll be very interesting to see how they approach it. But
we might get the matchup of all matchups of one great mustache versus another, with Peyton Tolley and Trent Grisham.
You think they have that confidence in Tolley?
I mean, think about it, right? So let's just assume Chapman's not available. You have Whitlock. After Whitlock, who is like without a doubt a trustworthy arm in that pen? Like no questions asked. You'd throw him out there and not even think twice about it.
I mean, I think they trust Weiser before Tolley.
Holy,
I mean, he has like a sub. In the end, he has like a sub-3 ERA or like a sub-3.1 ERA or something like that with the Sox this year.
I hope Garrett Weissert never throws a single pitch in this postseason.
I mean, like, I think in the end they trust him more than a guy like Peyton Tolley. Tolley's he's been way too inconsistent for them to go to in that type of spot.
I mean, but so here's the thing, right? You want to talk righty lefty matchups. Peyton Tolley out of the bullpen throws 99 to 100, not 96, 97. He's got the breaking ball. I'm not saying I would definitely go to Tolley, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if you see the mustache rumbling out of the outfield bullpen.
I think they probably trust Slayton a decent amount. I don't know how much they trust Kyle Harrison. That's a
See, I don't
That's
know if I see. I think Kyle Harrison's down the list of guys you'd see, only because theoretically, if the Red Sox lose tonight and win tomorrow, Kyle Harrison is probably your game one starter against Toronto. So I don't know, like, unless you want to throw him for like no more than 10 or 20 pitches, like, I don't know how you would I don't know how you would want him to be available. Because again, Early would have to go tomorrow, and it's not enough rest to bring Crochet back for game one. He'd only be on 3 days
yeah,
rest. You'd have to start Harris. You'd almost have to start Harrison game one. I don't hate the idea, but he'd have to be on a very limited pitch count. No pun intended.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, you know, they could go Zach Kelly, who I like. I don't know how much you trust him. He's pitched, I think, decent lately, if I'm not mistaken, over the last few weeks. Um, without looking at his splits over the last few weeks, my guess it would go. You know, after Whitlock, it's probably whether you like it or not. It's Weissert and Slayton, uh, and then after
Yeah,
that,
I would say it's like for me it's Slayton after Whitlock. If you look at Greg Weissert closed out the year pretty well. He his last bad outing, if you want to call it that, would be the A's. His A's appearance back in mid-September, an inning and a third of an inning, 2 hits, a run. He took the loss and was credited with a blown save. So I guess I'm just a little disappointed because he's the reason why Connolly Early doesn't have 2 wins.
yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, that's gonna wrap it up. I want to do a little bit of Pats, but I guess we're not gonna have time to do that. So, all right, that's gonna do it for this week. Hopefully, when we're back, there will be a game set against the Blue Jays.
Yes.
And the Patriots blew out the Panthers. That was a nice comeback. They got Buffalo this weekend. They're gonna
Get trounced, stumped, everything, all the things. They are going to lose so bad on Sunday. Yeah, the nice thing. So just the look ahead. In all likelihood. So if the Red Sox get past the Yankees, when the Red Sox get past the Yankees, you have game one on Saturday, game two Sunday, then the travel day, and then games 3, 4, and 5 at Fenway would be Tuesday. Actually, it would be Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm sorry, games 3 and 4. It's a 5-game series. My mistake. Games 3 and 4 Tuesday, Wednesday. So they'll be, if they're still playing baseball, and hopefully they wrap things up tonight, and we can start talking about the Blue Jays next week.
Yeah. All right. That's going to do it. Until next time, go Sox. We're raised
oink,
the banner.
Oink, oink, oink.
Goodbye.